Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you all to this 27th module of Fundamental of Internet of Things. Today, we'll be talking about some sensors that are available commercially. A lot of literature is available on internet related to the sensors, but we'll be seeing the basic operation of the some sensors which we might be using on and off in our laboratory periods. So, first in this list, when we talk about what you call as commercially available sensors, first obviously in this list has to be what we call as temperature sensor. I might not be required to go in details of the temperature sensors, as every one of us is available that any device that can measure the difference in temperature, that can measure what you call as the difference in temperature and transfer that difference, convert that difference in electrical signal or in measurable signal is known as temperature sensor, or we can define this as any device that can measure the amount of heat energy or change in heat energy, and or any device that can detect, perceive or sense the difference in temperature or heat energy and convert that into a electrical signal can be called as temperature sensors. Now temperature sensors are being used, we should say, since always, might be 200 300 years, and you might be using them in your air conditioners, then your what you call as refrigerators and environment monitoring systems and all and all. But after the you know inception of internet of things, this has gained popularity, and this has the scope of use of temperature sensors after internet of things has elevated to next platform, has elevated to next platform. So there are a lot of sensors which are commercially available in the market. There are a lot of sensors MX209, and then what you call as RTD sensors are there, thermistors are there, then Samsonic के बहुत सारे sensors आते हैं, then GY के बहुत सारे हैं, then what you call as there are a lot of other companies. Phonics is there, Honeywell is there, NTC IC thermistor temperatures are there, and there are a lot of commercially available sensors which you might find in literature easily. And there are a lot of, this is basically a IC sensor, and this basically is another sensor. We'll see how basically these what you call as these sensors they actually operate. So first we will be looking and we'll be trying to see the operation of first type of temperature sensor, that is a basic, a simple what you call as thermocouple, a simple thermocouple. We know that what is a what thermocouple. We know that a thermocouple is made by joining two dissimilar metals at one end, and two dissimilar metals if you join at one end is basically referred as hot junction, or whenever two different vessels at different temperature are joined, the thermocouple is formed. Or we can say that two dissimilar metal at one joint as a hot joint, and another joint is known as cold joint, and this is referred as hot joint. Now due to this what you call is difference in temperature between the hot junction and cold junction, a small EMF is induced, a small voltage is induced, which can be measured. This change in voltage due to difference in temperature can be sensed and converted and amplified to a signal which will give us difference in temperature, which will gives us difference in temperature. Another very common type of commercially available sensor is a RTD. Now RTD is basically made up of a material whose resistance changes with the temperature. We have studied semiconductors. As the temperature increases, the you know what you call, as if we talk about, as the temperature increases the resistivity increases. अगर हम टेक्निकली बात करें, टेम्परेचर इंक्रीज होगा इंसुलेटर्स की, आपकी वो व्हाट यू कॉल एज रेजिस्टिविटी डिक्रीज होती है. अगर हम सेमीकंडक्टर्स की बात करें, टेम्परेचर इंक्रीज करूँगा, ज़्यादा कोवेलेंट बॉन्ड्स ब्रेक होंगे, मोर इलेक्ट्रॉन्स विल बी अवेलेबल, मोर carriers will be available, they'll collide with each other. Once they collide with each other, ये मेरा एक कोई सेमीकंडक्टर मटेरियल है, मैंने इंक्रीज़ किया, बॉन्ड्स रिलीज हुए, बहुत ज़्यादा कैरियर्स अवेलेबल हो गए, दे कोलाइड विद ईच अदर, रेज द टेम्परेचर, टेम्परेचर रेंजेस increases, more covalent bond breaks, more collision takes place, further temperature increases. So this is a kind of a scenario which, if can be measured, we can calculate that difference in temperature. RTD is very similar. एक सिंपल सा RTD आपने लगाया, सप्लाई किया, उसका आपने ओम मीटर या वोल्ट मीटर लगा के उसका आपने पोटेंशियल मेजर कर लिया नॉर्मल कंडीशंस में. नाउ वेरी द टेम्परेचर, this potential will change. This change in potential can be recorded, and change in temperature can be what you call as measured. Another, if we have to write an answer on RTD, then RTD is basically a sensing device whose resistance changes with the temperature. Generally the material used are platinum, copper, zinc, nickel. A lot of other materials are also common to this family, and this to change, since the change in temperature across already, a constant current is applied. Constant voltage is applied, measure current. Constant current is applied, measure voltage. It goes like that. Once this constant current is applied, potential is recorded, then temperature is raised or reduced. Change is that potential directly indicates the change in temperature. This is how RTD works. Now RTD thermistor also works like that. Then semiconductor sensors are also widely available, and these days ICs are very commonly available, and which operates on mixed scenarios. बहुत सारी चीज़ें इसमें होती हैं. We are not going in details of that. So this is about temperature sensors. Now we talk about proximity sensor. ये हमारा एक कोई proximity sensor है. What it is requires to do, it records the presence of anyone. In that room. Proximity sensors are widely used for a lot of applications. Now आप theft केस में, बैंक is closed, use the proximity sensors. As soon as somebody enters the bank in closing hours, आपने एक बैंक में proximity sensor लगाया है, कोई भी अगर वहाँ पे presence है in closing hours, this proximity sensor connected to node MCU or Arduino or Raspberry Pi will raise an alarm. So proximity sensors has lot of uses. Now there are two type of proximity sensors which are generally available. There are two types of proximity sensors. They are generally available. The first one to this family is inductive, another one is capacitive. Now this inductive proximity sensor basically operates on the electrical principle of inductance. Now we all know that inductance is a phenomena where alternating current, by definition of a magnetic component, induces a EMF forces on the target object. इसके बारे में directly we see the inductive proximity sensor basically uses a oscillator, a coil, detection circuit, and the output circuit, which can be easily seen in this diagram. The simple principle of this is that oscillator generates a alternating current. It is basically amplified and applied to the coil, which produces a field which produces basically a magnetic field. Now as soon as anything, as soon as any metal, as soon as any metal comes in the range of this proximity sensor, eddy current is built up. Now we all know that, let's say this is basically a magnetic field, and if any metal comes in, a eddy current, if we all might be remembering what is eddy current. It is basically a, what you call as I'm so sorry, loop of electric currents that are induced in the conductors in altering magnetic field, in altering magnetic field. So this eddy current basically pushes back the magnetic field, changes the current in the oscillatory circuit, changes the strength of oscillations which can be measured, and the proximity of anything can be determined, and the proximity of anything can be determined. This is basically what you call as this is basically a principle of operation is somewhat similar to that capacitive sensor. They also operate like inductive proximity sensors, and this capacitive inductive sensor generally behaves like a capacitor. A metallic plate in the sensing phase of the sensor is electrically connected to the oscillator circuit is connected to the oscillator circuit of the this thing. Now inductive what do you call as inductive sensors produces electromagnetic field, whereas this capacitive sensors, they work on electrostatic field. Work on electrostatic they work on electrostatic field. The external capacitance between the target and the internal sensor plate, external circuit between the target, this is a target, and the internal sensor plate forms a sort of a feedback capacitance in the oscillator circuit. As the target approaches, as the target is moved towards the oscillations, they increase until they reaches a threshold which is strong enough to activate the output. This is how basically the capacitive sensor they works. Generally oscillator is there to produce the oscillations, and they are basically amplified so as to generate a threshold which can actually trigger the output. This is how basically our what you call as capacitive sensor works, and there are a couple of losses like hysteresis and all which are associated with them, but that is not the part of our discussion in this lecture. Again, when we move ahead in this family, then we have a lot of other sensors. Pressure sensors are there. Pressure sensors is nothing which basically senses the change in pressure, and converts that into a electrical signal. There are a lot of devices, they rely on liquid and other form of pressures. These sensors make it possible to create an IoT system that can monitor the device and pressures that are propelled. Now, with any deviation from the standard pressure range, the device notifies the system administrator about the problem that should be fixed. So they are widely installed in what you call as manufacturing unit. Logistics, shipping industry has a lot of use in this. Then there are a lot of chemical sensors which are available and widely deployed in sensor. हर एक chemical के अलग अलग तरीके के sensors available है. Gas sensors are also there. इनकी अपनी अपनी gas sensors nuclear power plants में और chemical industries में some of the gases which are dangerous for the humankind, they are to be detected, and the alarm should be raised so that the workers or operators or engineers, they wear a mask to prevent themselves from the poisonous gases. Lot of gas sensors which are commercially and easily available, hardly at the price of 100 to 200 rupees, are breath analyzer, carbon monoxide detector, then the air pollution sensors are there, nitrogen oxide sensors are there. Lot of sensors are available in the market, which can be easily procured and used by you guys for your research and development and analysis purposes. Refer to the PDF which has been uploaded. Mail me back on funwithiot@gmail.com. That shall be all for this lecture and this unit. Thank you.